everybody. So this is our second tour stop with the Building Unity Tour in Rock County. The giant boatmobile is currently parked outside of church in Janesville, and we're having our community gathering virtually, of course, tomorrow, May 9th. And we really wanted to talk with some folks about a really important issue in Rock County following the April 7th referendum, passing fair maps by a huge margin. And we wanted to get a sense of what this means and why it's important. So thank you again for joining us. And with me, we have Bill Whitford, who was a plaintiff in the Wisconsin gerrymandering case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. He's also a lifelong Wisconsinite and Democrat. We also have Roger Anclam, who was a GM union member for over 30 years and retired and is currently the chairman of the Town of Turtles Board. We also have with Building Unity, Mary Kay, who is a lifelong organizer and a crucial Building Unity member. So thank you all for being here. I wanted to start with getting a sense of what the districts look like in Rock County for folks to understand what we're talking about when we say gerrymandering. Bill, could you walk us through what we should be looking for here?
Well, this map shows all the assembly districts in Wisconsin, but it identifies Rock County as in the south central part of the state. It's a reasonably populous county, and it contains Janesville and Beloit, you know, some of Wisconsin's leading medium-sized cities. And now this shows the districts in Rock County before the current redistricting scheme was enacted in 2011, effective in 2012. And I want to call your attention to particularly the old District 45, which, as you can see, contained a good deal of Beloit. And I want you to look at that as we shift to the current assembly districts and see what happened to it. The old 45 is now the new 31. The district to the west of it is now called 45. And I want to show what happened to those, focus on what happened to those two districts as illustrating the key concepts in any districting scheme that produce is a partisan gerrymander. They're called packing and cracking. Packing is the process of loading up a district with lots of partisans of the party sought to be disadvantaged, which is Democrats in Wisconsin. We look briefly at District 44, which is downtown Janesville. That's a very packed district. Republicans don't usually run a candidate. It was historically packed. Janesville's a Democratic city. But now look at 45 and 31. What happened in this districting scheme as compared to the one that preceded it, we just saw the map, is that a big hunk of Beloit was taken out of the new 31 and added to the what's now called 45, making a packed district out of the current 45, which goes west and picks up Democratic areas of Greene County, amongst other things. And to make up for the lost population, when they took a good hunk of Beloit out, not all of it, but most of it, the district went east into highly Republican Walworth County. That's called cracking. The idea of cracking is to take their Democratic votes, spread them out amongst Republican-leaning districts, spread them out in a way that there's a sizable number of Democrats there. The Democratic vote in the new 31 will be, in most elections, exceeding 40% of the vote, but not so high that the Democrats really have a chance to win it. That's a safe Republican district, the current 31. So 44 and 31 are excellent examples of packing and cracking. Now, this is just in Rock County, but this kind of pattern has been replicated throughout the state. We have Roger Anclam here. We're very fortunate. He's a resident of Beloit. And let me ask you, Roger, what you were doing this time 10 years ago in 2010?
Well, this time 10 years ago, I was losing a lot of weight because I was running a very aggressive campaign for the state assembly. Out hitting doors, feeling real good about our opportunity for a win.
And that was in the old 45, right?
Yes, that was in the old 45.
Which you would call a party competitive district.
It was a very competitive district. It had been held prior to me by a Democrat, Dr. Benedict. I think he was there for 3 terms. So we felt real good we'd have a good opportunity.
And it had a good mixture of city and rural folk in it. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it was a very good mix, and we were all parties of a common interest, with the exception of the town of Richmond. We were all in Rock County, and I say that because the towns in Rock County do their own planning and zoning and those types of things, and in Walworth County they don't. So that's a huge disconnect.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that you lost the election in 2010 closely. It was, of course, a Republican wave year. Republicans did well throughout the state. Did you consider running again in 2012?
No. After the redistricting, my campaign team sat down and we analyzed the new district, and we didn't even try to mount a campaign because we knew that there was no likelihood that we would be able to win. The district was stretched so far into deep Republican territory, we knew we wouldn't have an opportunity.
And that's the new District 31, right? That extends into Walworth County.
Yes, that's the new District 31.
And how much of Beloit is in the new 31?
In the new 31, there's very, very few folks from the city of Beloit. They're the town of Beloit, the town of Turtle.
Which are kind of suburbs of Beloit.
Yes, they skirt all around the city of Beloit, but very few folks from the actual city where the core of Democrats were before.
So effectively, the redistricting took a bunch of city residents from Beloit and replaced them with a bunch of Republicans from Walworth County.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so I'm really getting a sense of why this Fair Maps resolution is so important. I do have a question, though, about why there needed to be a referendum, which was passed by over 80% on the April 7th election, when it's my understanding that there was also a resolution passed in Rock County in January of this year. Can someone explain for me why both are necessary and what the difference is?
I could do that. Could Dan put up the map that shows the counties that passed the referendums and the resolutions? What happens first in most communities is that the citizens talk to county board members and says, we really need nonpartisan redistricting. So there are now 51 of the 72 counties have passed a resolution by the county board to support a nonpartisan redistricting. And that's very helpful. It doesn't pass just narrowly. Usually it's like 60%, 70%, or almost unanimous of the county board members. But we found that legislators, who are the ones who are making the decisions about redistricting, really care more about what the actual citizens say. And so another alternative is a non-binding referendum. Still takes the county board to put it on the ballot so that the citizens, the voters, can vote. And what happened just on April 7th was that Rock County voted 80.6%. The highest percentage of any of the voters in the counties voted in favor of having nonpartisan redistricting. Now, it's not binding on the legislature, but it really says something. And some of our legislators who are themselves Republicans have said that it's the voice of the people that made them sign on to the bill that has been in the legislature for having nonpartisan redistricting. So it's very persuasive and very important.
Thank you for that explanation. Okay, so I understand that a resolution is decided by the county board, and a referendum moves from the county board, gets it on the ballot, and then the voters get a say in the referendum. which is oftentimes more persuasive for the state legislature.
Exactly.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm also, something that came to mind was thinking, if over 80% of people, obviously extremely bipartisan,
Yes.
pass this, the highest out of any county, as you said, in Wisconsin, to support this, I'm thinking there has to be a lot of issues going on in Rock County that people feel are not being addressed due to gerrymandering, and feel that those elected are not being held accountable to them. Am I correct in assuming that? Are there specific issues that have clearly been impacted by this gerrymandering of 2011?
I think we should ask Roger Anclam about that, because he's on the ground in Rock County.
Well, thank you. And yes, I guess I don't know where to start. I ran in 2010 because we had lost the General Motors plant in 2008, 2009. We were devastated. We didn't have any jobs. We'd lost 10,000 good paying jobs. We weren't getting any help. I mean, that was a big issue, but there are bigger issues or issues as large in that there's no regulation on the CAFOs, the concentrated animal feeding operations, and they suck millions and millions and millions of gallons of water out of the ground, and then the animal waste with all the nitrates goes right back into the ground. We have a terrible problem with nitrates in the water. And when we go back to 2010, probably one of the most devastating things was the assault on public workers, but most specifically teachers. And it's very close to me because my wife was a para for a teacher for 18 years. My sister is a retired teacher at 30 years. My brother's a teacher for 30 years. My daughter's a teacher. My son-in-law is a teacher. And they've just been under attack. And what it's done, as far as I'm concerned, is we've seen a lot of the good teachers leave. We still have a lot of good teachers, but it's difficult to bring in good, young, talented teachers because they're in this state because they're under attack. And everybody has seen it with referendum after referendum after referendum for new schools. We are stuck in a spot where we have school boards that are working with less. We have superintendents who are very good people, but they're used to working with a teacher group through a collective bargaining agreement. And that's what they're all used to. And when you take away the collective bargaining agreement, which is the sets the rules and the guides by how we operate on a day-to-day basis, and you thrust that into somebody who's never in their lifetime had to do it, we have chaos inside the schools as far as trying to administer not the students so much as working with the teachers. And it's a crime that teachers have the ability to write off, I think it's $1,000 or $1,500 a year in their taxes for what they take in a classroom, because I can tell you that isn't even scratch what they actually take in. And
by taking, do you mean like bringing in school supplies for the children, or what? Is that what you're referring to?
That yes, they bring in school supplies and not just pens and pencils. They take in foodstuffs for them. They take in personal things for personal hygiene. My son-in-law actually, for his Christmas present, had us donate to his school for the closet where the kids can get these supplies because they don't have them at home. And the big thing about education for me is, and I've always been pro-education, is I want the next generations to be better equipped than I was. And my folks made sure that I was well equipped. They are the folks, now that I'm reaching those golden years, those are the folks that are going to be taking care of us. That's where our investment needs to go. We're not doing that. And when, as a politician, if you will, as the chairman of my town board, when I seek help from the representatives that we have today, they don't even respond. They don't respond to me. They don't respond to other board members because they don't need to. They don't have to worry about getting reelected. They don't have to worry about dealing with their constituency. If I had my druthers, every district in the state, I don't want my district to be 90% Democrat. I don't want it to be 90% Republican. I would like to see a 50-50 draw. So regardless who gets elected, Democrat or Republican, if they don't do what they said they're going to do in their campaigning, if they don't answer their constituents, they're going to lose the next election. That's going to keep them answering to us and responsible to us, rather than us just their constituents just being someone that makes their paycheck for them.
Yeah, it seems if they know that they're going to win the district because they've designed the district to ensure that they will, then it doesn't really matter if what they do upsets voters. They don't really have to be accountable, as you've said. So I guess my question is, where do we go from here? I know the 2020 census went out, and that redistricting happens following that census. So where does this stand with the Wisconsin State Legislature?
My recommendation is this, that we all need to go out and talk to our neighbors and emphasize this issue and convince them that fair maps is essential to the future of the state in the next 10 years. And it's especially important to convince Republican-leaning voters, because Republicans right now in the state legislature feel like the current gerrymander has acted in their interest. They've been in power for 10 years and basically untouchable. They don't even have to bother to answer constituents' inquiries, as Roger just testified. And the Republicans are going to control the legislature after the 2020 election, barring a really historic landslide for the Democrats. And so we need to get some of those Republican voters to talk to their Republican legislators and convince them to support some kind of fair map solution for the next decade.
And is there a deadline for that? At what point is it decided what the committee will look like that decides on the new districts?
Well, the whole process will begin when the census is reported, usually March or April of 2020, year ending in 2021. Of course, the census is a little delayed this year because of the pandemic, so the date might change by a month or two. Now, exactly what will happen there is very much up in the air, and there are a lot of possibilities. But the Republican-led legislature will clearly have a major voice.
All right, well, oh, go ahead, Mary Kay.
I was going to add that in the meantime, I haven't lost hope in getting legislators committed to nonpartisan redistricting before the election in November. And I'm encouraged that 5 Republican Assembly representatives have gone on record in the past for nonpartisan redistricting. I'd like to point out, having grown up on a farm, that all 5 have very strong rural roots, and I think ethically believe in fair representation, and they also got very strong messages from their rural areas. So the more that we voters hold events where all the candidates for a state assembly are asked their position and what they commit themselves to, that will reinforce those who've already said that they're supporting nonpartisan redistricting, and it will bring others along who haven't taken that position. So I think that's something that in letters to the editor, these kinds of video shown with views from all around the state, that will really help. I think it's important we get to young people who are voting for the first time, and for them to actually see, just as they see today in Rock County, how things got switched around. Well, I'd like to have that be happening all over the state.
For those people that are in PAC districts and have already legislators who have committed to supporting nonpartisan redistricting, what can they do to help out other counties in the state?
they could actually find out who else is running in those other districts and contact their friends and relatives that are in those other districts to make sure they understand the issues. I mean, like here, I live in the southwest part of the state, but I grew up in the northeast part of the state. I have family and relatives and friends of the family and I should be talking to them about that. And we share a lot of the same issues. In Northeast Wisconsin is as upset as Roger is with the CAFOs and with the water quality. And frankly, water quality does not stay in one place. It tends to, affect the whole, everything, especially whichever way the water is moving, which is typically north to south. So we need to be talking to each other and supporting each other.
Well, you all have convinced me. I know it makes a lot of sense to me that one vote should really mean one vote, and that the politicians I elect should be accountable to me. And I know that I'll be reaching out to my legislators today to hold their feet to the fire on this. This is a really important issue. So thank you all for joining and for informing me. And I hope all the viewers will move to take action on this so that 2021 redistricting does not look like 2011.